Welcome to the Stronger Than Steel podcast with your host, Austin Davidson and John Keir, talking Steelers all the time. Now, here's Austin and John.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Stronger Than Steel podcast. My name is John Keir, one of your co-hosts, and joining me as always is our other co-host, Austin Davidson.
Heyo.
It is season 4, episode 8, April 3rd, 2019. We are getting rapidly close, 3 weeks away from the NFL draft, and we're now, after today, going to be more than halfway through our pre-draft process as far as examining and analyzing prospects going into the NFL draft. We've already looked at quarterbacks, specialists, offensive linemen, defensive linemen, and running backs. Today is safeties, so both free and strong safeties. In an era of positionless football, there are still key differences between types of safeties. You've got your single highs, your box safeties, you've got your slot guys that can kind of double as dime backers. And we got kind of an interesting taste last season and kind of how these guys were going to look coming out of the draft. And we got 2 safeties in the draft last year, and Terrell, Edmunds, and Marcus Allen. It was a high position of need, the safety position, and we had various ideas as far as how each of them were going to be used. So with that in mind, even though 2 safeties were taken last year, do you still think safety could be a position that gets addressed? You know, we'll get into that. But the first thing to look at is, you know, who the Steelers have right now and who they lost. So right now on the roster, they have their starters from last year. Sean Davis at free safety, he's in his final year of his deal. You have Terrell Edmunds, last year's first-round pick. He has 3 years remaining on his deal, a 4th with a team option in 2022. And you've got backups Jordan Dangerfield and Marcus Allen, who've played special teams. And then as far as free agency goes, we know the Steelers just cut Morgan Burnett 2 days ago, and Nat Burray, who was brought in to be a special teams player, only played in a handful of games last year. He is also being let go. So let's talk about who they've lost in Burnett and Burray. 2 guys that, quite frankly, just didn't live up to their billing.
Yeah, they didn't really lose much from either. Burnett didn't contribute much, and when he did, he just wasn't good. And Burr was always a special teams addition. That was it. He was just supposed to be a special teams guy, and we saw in the preseason that if he had to start at any point, it was going to be detrimental because he was struggling in preseason activities. He didn't really get much time. He didn't really even do much on special teams when he was okay, but he didn't really get much time to show it anyway. He got hurt pretty early on. So, I mean, the Steelers didn't lose much here.
Injuries really marked and maimed these 2 players' 2018 seasons. Burnett got his season off to a slow start with injury and just never recovered. And Burray, as we know, missed most of the season and spent the latter portion of it on injured reserve as well. So now let's shift our focus to the 4 players the Steelers have, and in particular the starters. Let's start with Sean Davis, because I think this one is a little more interesting. The 2016 second-round draft pick was the Joe Green Award winner that year for the Steelers' best rookie. It's kind of been downhill since then. 2017 was a down year for him. Switched positions in 2018 and had kind of an up-and-down year, but I wouldn't really say he was better than what he was in 2017. So I wouldn't expect him to be extended at this point in the offseason because he hasn't really done much to earn that, in my opinion. So I guess my question to you is, do you think he gets extended? Do you think he deserves to get extended? Kind of what do you think about that? And then just his play to this point of his career.
I don't think he gets extended. I think safety is going to be a prime draft target next season. I think that Steelers going to rock with him this season, see how he does, and they'll really go from there. But I think that it's going to end up, because I thought that after that great 2016 year where he did so well, and then seeing in 2017 how he did, I thought he was going to bounce back in 2018. I really couldn't, like you said, I really couldn't say that he did. So, I mean, I'm not expecting him to bounce back in 2019 again and be like he was in his rookie year. So I'm thinking that the Steelers aren't going to extend him unless it's for relatively cheap. The safety market, as we've learned, is kind of a messed up market. I mean, Landon Collins kind of fixed it, But, still, if you're not that good of a safety, you're not getting paid. So it depends on how other teams view Sean Davis. So he shouldn't be too expensive if the Steelers do end up extending him.
Next season is definitely a big year. If I were to kind of speculate here, I think he can get better, but I guess the real question is how high is the ceiling? This is his third position, and going to be his second season at free safety. His second season at strong safety wasn't particularly strong. I guess what I'm saying is I think he can get better, but I guess do you really think he can get a lot better, significantly better? Because I'm not sure that he can, at least not to the point where he ends up signing a 4-year deal after one good year in 2019.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get that good. I think there is room for improvement. There's actually a lot of room for improvement, but I think he could fix some stuff. But I don't think that he's going to improve enough where the Steelers are like, well, let's offer him a big extension because he did well enough.
See, the big problem is Davis isn't really a ball-hawking safety, and that's usually what the Steelers would want out of their free safety. At least that's what you would want now with the current state of the defensive back room.
Yeah, and I feel like the Steelers don't really have that right now. They need that ball hawk, and that's why it doesn't make sense to really extend Sean Davis. I think they'd want to move on and add a safety that's more of a ball hawk.
Indeed, and as a matter of fact, really the only true free safety on the roster, excluding Davis because he's been a slot corner and strong safety the majority of his NFL career, is Jordan Dangerfield. And as we know, he's more of a special teams player. So really just a bunch of question marks at the free safety position going forward. Strong safety, we saw the Steelers take a first-round pick in Terrell Edmunds on him last year at the strong safety position. We thought he was originally going to be used as kind of the hybrid dimebacker role, but he got thrust into the starting spot early on after Morgan Burnett suffered injuries. And we saw Edmunds play a large percentage of defensive snaps. I don't know if he finished the year this way, but for most of the year, he was leading all defensive players in snaps during the season. So, he had his rookie struggles, I'd say, early on. I thought he developed relatively nicely. I thought he improved. I wouldn't say he was necessarily that good. I'd say he was, average to maybe just a little above average at the end of the year. So I guess where are you on Terrell Edmunds a year after the fact, and how much better do you think he can get? What kind of leap can we expect in year two?
I think Edmunds did okay last year. I felt like I was happy by the end of it. I still think that he doesn't get involved in plays enough. I feel like he's not a guy that's putting his all in every play. And for me, that still bothers me, but at least I feel like he can untap that. That's like a thing that's easily fixable. I still feel that way because I feel like he wouldn't be around the ball that often and such, but he did okay in a lot of other aspects. I thought his coverage was okay. I mean, there was breaks here and there, but I thought his tackling was okay. Like, all around, Edmunds was okay. I think he could be better if he played with a little bit more ferocity, as I said, but that's something he can improve. I think in year two, maybe now he got a lot of snaps to play last season. Hopefully he can improve. I think that's what the Steelers are banking on. Obviously, I looked at Edmunds last year in our pre-draft analysis. I ranked him as a third-round prospect where I said I would like him in the fourth round, ideally. So they bet on a developmental player. So it's really, you got to be hoping that he's going to get better next year, because that's really the Steelers reached for a guy that they didn't think was going to be there in the second round, which I still disagree with. But regardless of whatever happened last draft, I think that next year he is going to get slightly better at the least. I don't think he's going to regress. I think that he showed me that he's okay in most regards, that he's going to focus on something and become a little bit better in one of his areas, whether it be tackling, whether it be ball hawking or something. I think he's going to get slightly better. I don't think he's going to be great. I just think he's going to be above average next year.
Sometimes that's all you need, but regardless, we kind of just talked about the starters, so they're backups, Jordan Dangerfield and Marcus Allen. I'm more interested in Allen because he was a fifth-round pick last year. A team guy, a guy that defended the run well at Penn State. Not really a good coverage guy. He played mostly special teams last year. there's been some talk of him being a potential dime backer or something like that. What do you think about Marcus Allen? Are you expecting much from him? Because I'm not sure exactly what I feel about him at this moment.
I'm not really expecting much out of him. I think he's roster spot. I don't even think is safe. I think that he didn't really come on as much as I wanted him to. It took him a very long time to actually crack the active roster, and I felt like he didn't really get that many snaps. So I'm not exactly confident that he's going to make this roster. But then again, I thought the same about Brian Allen, also a fifth-round pick from 2 years ago, and he made the roster this past season. So, I mean, maybe it's not as hard, but I think that Marcus Allen's job is not safe, depending on how many safeties are brought in this draft. If it's only one, probably he's fine, but they end up bringing in two, like a late-round guy and maybe like a mid-round guy. Marcus Allen's going to be in trouble.
What about Jordan Dangerfield?
For Dangerfield, I actually like Dangerfield. I've always liked Dangerfield because, I have this fond memory in my head of, let's see if I can think of how many seasons ago it was. I think it was 3. It might have been 4, but it was a special. It was either Monday night, Sunday night, or Thursday night, and the Steelers were playing the Chiefs. And the Steelers were decimated by injuries going into this Chiefs game. I think it was Cameron Hayward's first game back before he got injured again. And then I forget who the starting safety at the time was, but Jordan Dangerfield was going to be starting, and the Steelers were underdogs because of how hurt they were and how bad they were. And Jordan Dangerfield came in, played really well, and the Steelers won that game, I think, 42-14. They absolutely decimated the Chiefs in a upset game. And ever since then, I've been pretty favorable about Jordan Dangerfield. I mean, it's not all him. It was a team effort. But I feel like he's a pretty decent backup, and I like how he does on special teams. I think his roster spot is safe because I mean, maybe it's not enough big sample size, but that one game where he had to start the whole game, I thought he did fantastic. I mean, it was only against Alex Smith and Travis Kelce at the time, but and there was no Tyreek Hill yet or any of that jazz. But I like Jordan Dangerfield personally.
Certainly a good special teams player. So now that we've kind of looked at everybody that's in the safety room, how do you see the Steelers going about this? Is there really a need here? We saw Mark Barron signed, and he was a safety coming out of college, but he's now a linebacker. So no safeties have been signed. The only way there would be one addressed now is either a cheap one after the draft or a UDFA or someone in the draft. So I guess, really, how do you see the Steelers as far as need and position at safety? Because I think you could stand to upgrade, but at the same time, there are other spots that need it more.
Yeah, I think the Steelers could really address the safety in any round of this draft if they wanted to. While the first or second round safety isn't ideal this year, the reality is that the Steelers are probably not extending Sean Davis, as we talked about. And the Steelers are going to need to draft a guy to replace him. It doesn't have to be this year necessarily. They probably will leave it to next year if they don't extend Davis, but they could just do it this year and let a young guy redshirt. That's a possibility. And then the backups could be replaced too. Marcus Allen, to me, is really improving, and Dangerfield I just went over, but Dangerfield's still replaceable as well. Not to mention, last year the Steelers had 6 safeties on the roster to start the year, and now they only have 4, in total. So they may just want to add depth in general. Maybe they'll just add a fifth-round pick again, and they'll roll with the 5 safeties that they would now have, and that would be it. So they could really add a safety in any facet, in my mind. I personally wouldn't like a first- or second-round safety because there's so many other positions that need help. But, I mean, if the Steelers traded up and got, another second-round pick, because that's where they trade up, then I wouldn't be so mad about it. But what do you think?
I'm in complete agreement with you. This is one where the Steelers have a lot of flexibility with. Jordan Dangerfield is a restricted free agent after this year. He should be back, and, Edmunds will be back, and Allen should be back if he makes the team. But, again, you said it's no certainty that he makes the team. The big question mark is Sean Davis, and if you find a guy that you like, depending on the round, I don't really have a problem with you taking it unless if, inside linebacker goes unaddressed for the entire draft again. But I don't see that happening. But, I agree with you, Austin. I think this is one where you have to at least think a little bit about the future, or at least try to push Sean Davis a little more, because, again, we don't see him getting extended. So you're going to need someone to replace him at some point should a deal not be reached. So I think it makes a little more sense. As far as where, I think a mid-round pick makes the most sense, but it's important to also note that the Steelers need a dime backer, and they've tried various players, whether it be William Gay or Robert Golden or Morgan Burnett or Cameron Sutton. They've tried a bunch of different guys there over the years, and it just hasn't worked out. So maybe this is a year where they actually just try to go for a dime backer. And I don't know if you noticed this, Austin, with the tape you looked at on your prospects, but some guys are exclusively, or maybe the majority of them, at least the ones I looked at, are hybrid guys, or at least guys that spend some time in the slot or as a dime backer. So there is some versatility there, which is interesting to note, because it's not just safeties now. Now it's multiple positions.
Oh yeah, a few of my players offered a quarterback versatility. Two of them, and one offered both safety positions. And I forget what my first one did, but my first one was versatile. I think he played special teams as well as safety. So a lot of my prospects did offer some versatility.
All right, with that in mind, let's preview the 8 safeties we're going to be looking at. I'll state my 4 guys first for you, and then Austin, I'll have you state your 4, and then please get into your first prospect. So I'm starting with safety Amani Hooker from Iowa, followed by Chauncey Gardner-Johnson from Florida, Donovan Wilson from Texas A&M, and Marvell Tell from USC.
So mine are Will Harris from Boston College. Then I got Juan Thornhill from Virginia. Then I have Nasir Adderley from Delaware. And then I have Taylor Rapp from Washington. And I'll start with Taylor Rapp. Taylor Rapp's 6 foot and 208 pounds. He was recruited out of Bellingham, Washington, but he has dual citizenship between Canada and the United States. He came out of his high school in Bellingham as an all-Washington pick and had been graded as a top 25 safety recruit by college scouts. He ended up staying within the state of Washington, going to Washington College. In his freshman year, Rapp broke his left hand in spring practices, but decided to play with a cast. This toughness played a big part in him eventually earning a starting role on defense, starting 10 of 14 games with 53 tackles, 4 interceptions, and 2 pass breakups. He was the Pac-12 championship defensive MVP after getting a pick and pick 6 in the game, and was named the Pac-12 freshman defensive player of the year, as well as freshman All-American for the season. The next season, he started 12-13 games, getting himself first-team All-Pac-12 honors for getting 59 tackles, 3.5 for a loss, 2 sacks, and an interception. In 2018, he continued earning tons of recognition with multiple All-American honors and another first-team All-Conference nod for 59 tackles, 6 for a loss, 5 sacks, 2 interceptions, 5 pass breakups, and 3 fumble recoveries. After a tremendous season, Rapp decided to forego his senior season and declared for the draft, which is understandable coming out of such a big year. So let's get into what's good about Rapp. He has some good size for safety with a compact frame and well-built chest. This allowed him to work all over the field in college, having been successful basically everywhere. You can see from his stats, Man's played great at the line of scrimmage with 6 tackles for a loss and 5 tackles in his final season. I think I said tackles, I meant sacks. 5 sacks in his final season. I think he could transfer that to the NFL level to be a versatile safety. That can be used as on safety blitzes or to load the box. He does have impressive talent to figure out a play and flow over to it as a box safety after all. So, really, Rapp's football intelligence is considered to be elite by most. He really is just intelligent in general, as he had a good academic record at Washington, but you can see that he understands plays very well and can recognize run lane development as if he were a running back. Then in coverage, he moves pretty well for a guy with a compact frame and offers the ability to cover tight ends and man coverage. Then he just seems to always get to the play, even if it's not near him. He takes accurate pursuit angles to make it there and lay into a guy. That being said, Rapp hit sticks guys. He makes sure guys know who he is and where he is on the field. Also with this tackle, he comes to balance and lines out to make the tackle. And he uses good hip sync and great footwork to make open field tackles. Finally, he's been described as a gifted kickoff cover man, so he offers special teams abilities as well. So what's not so good about Rapp? After watching his tape, the one thing I'd have to take away from him was that out of his 7 college interceptions, maybe 1 or 2 could be considered impressive. What I mean is this. A lot of them were right place at the right time kind of deals, where either the quarterback gift wrapped it to him and just threw it at him, or the receiver slipped and he just happened to be there. There was one where he did undercut a ball slightly and it was okay, but really the only one I consider to be impressive, and it was still at the right place at the right time, don't get me wrong, was a pick 6 in the Pac-12 championship game. But I don't really consider Rapp to be a ball hawk, at least in terms of interceptions at the NFL level. I don't think that he would keep that up. It just seems like a lot of more coincidence stuff that he was right place, right time. Not only that, though, but since his freshman year, the ball production kind of went down, where he had 4 interceptions and 2 pass breakups his freshman year, but only had 3 interceptions and 5 pass breakups in his last 2 years. So some scouts and analysts have said he might have left some interceptions and breakups on the field. Then something that concerns me is his speed and burst. Rapp chose not to do the 40-yard dash to the combine, and scouts are worried that he could be outpaced by NFL runners in their race to the edge. They don't believe Rapp is that fast, and he didn't really give scouts or me a reason to believe it. His lateral burst is average as well, so that's also something to consider. Another thing that appears to be just average is the ability to range over the top. But now just for a couple more negatives, with the type of safety he is, where he dishes out hard hits, he also absorbs some big hits as well. Luckily, he hasn't been injured besides the broken hand in his freshman year, but the kind of hits he takes wear some safeties down. The last thing is that he could trigger a little too early run support from too high, so sometimes he comes down before he should, but that's the last negative thing. So Rapp is considered by some to be the top safety prospect in this year's draft, being coined as a safe player. He's been told he's being considered the one that's going to definitely work out no matter what. He's because of what he offers. He's also impressed scouts with how well he interviewed at the combine, and is considered to be one of the best character guys in this year's draft. He's very interesting to say the least. I like his versatility and that he can play at the line of scrimmage really well, and how he loves to get involved with plays. A big problem I had with Terrell Edmunds last year, as you heard me mention. His ball hawking skills do leave me desiring more, though. He's made some pretty athletic pass breakups, but his interceptions were nothing to write home about. And as I said, he left some on the field, so that's a concern as well. So in terms of draft position, it's pretty hard. Since he's considered the best, I want to say first round, but a lot of analysts have no safeties going in the first round. And the top guys are kind of considered pretty close. I'm going to say he goes early second round, like within the first 5 picks of the round. But he could be the Patriots pick in the first round as well, because the Patriots could use a safety. So that was Taylor Rapp out of Washington. Let's hear about your first prospect.
I'm taking a look at Amani Hooker from Iowa. He's a junior, standing at 5'11" and 210 pounds. Hooker, just to preface, I watched his games against Mississippi State in the Outback Bowl, Maryland, and Iowa State, all from this past season. Quick background on Hooker: a 3-time All-State pick in high school, a special teams contributor his freshman season in 2016. He started 6 games in 2017 as a sophomore, had 56 tackles between both safety positions, added 4 pass breakups and 2 interceptions in 10 games. He had a bruised knee that caused him to miss 3 games. And then in his junior season, he played at a new safety linebacker hybrid that the coaches made just for him last season, and the result was him being named Big Ten Defensive Back of the Year. He had 65 tackles, 3.5 for a loss, 4 interceptions, and 7 pass breakups to go with the safety in 13 starts. So Hooker, he looks and plays like an NFL safety from what I saw. He's got good length, good size, and a good build on his frame. He's physical, he'll stick his nose in the ground game, and seems to have that run-first type of mentality on defense. this is the big thing with Hooker. He reads and diagnoses plays very well, specifically with using his eyes and looking in the backfield. He reads the opposing quarterback very well. Lance Zierlein of NFL.com, a draft analyst, said that he sees the field like a point guard in basketball. And point guards typically are the best passers, the guys that see everything. And if that's what Hooker is on the defense, that's always nice to have. And in the 3 games I saw last season, Hooker is just very positionally sound in coverage, particularly in zone coverage. He was so good in coverage positionally, in fact, where he was rarely allowing separation that I counted 5 targets against in those 3 games. 4 of them came in one game, and of those 4 in that one game, it was against Iowa State. One of them was technically just a dump off to the running back where he was the closest defender in the area. So he wasn't really being targeted. So you think about that, that's really only 4 targets across 3 games. So he's not getting picked on, and I tend to think that there's a reason for that. That's a decent sample size. He held his own in man coverage as well. Even if he wasn't going against speedy receivers, he was able to cover some tight ends. Those instincts and play recognition that I mentioned before was very apparent on wide receiver screens and reverses. He was rarely caught off guard by them and was able to commit very quickly. He's versatile. He played both strong safety and dime, the dime or nickelback, if you will, a lot his senior season. And his run fits are decent at times, and his pursuit angles when the running back is at or behind the line of scrimmage is pretty good. On the other side, though, Hooker is just really not athletic enough to be a deep safety. So he's going to be limited in the NFL to being a box safety or that dime backer kind of guy. He likes to undercut routes too often, and while it's nice to be aggressive, he'll be vulnerable on certain types of routes. For instance, sluggo routes, the slant and go route, he would bite on that. His pursuit angles down the field aren't very good, and he tries to knock the lights out of the ball carrier, particularly running backs, instead of wrapping up. His technique as a tackler is not great, and he needs to improve in that aspect. He missed 2 tackles in the 3 games I looked at. He needs to improve as a tackler, and he's not a great blitzer, at least not from what I saw. He likes to hesitate a little too much when he should just be going. Don't be worried about, letting the quarterback leak out. Get to him first and then worry about wrapping up. And then just the negative, he just didn't pop off at the tape the way I thought he might. But then again, he probably won't since he's not the fastest guy in the room, so I'm not super concerned with that, but he wasn't flying from sideline to sideline like maybe I thought he would. So at the end of the day, Amani Hooker is a really good hybrid safety dime guy that I think would fit very well in Pittsburgh. He's not overly athletic, and that is a concern, but I think he's a solid defender, and if he continues to improve his tackling and blitzing, I think in the right role with the right system, namely Pittsburgh, I think he's a very good, could be a potentially very good dime backer in Pittsburgh for years to come. I think from what I've seen, he's a fringe first rounder, most likely an early second round pick. His athleticism just holds him out of the top 32, but if he's still on the board in the second round, I'd be ecstatic to end up with Amani Hooker. He's also, it's important to note, just 20 years old, so he'll turn 21 shortly after the draft, but he's still one of the younger players in this draft, so just wanted to make a note of that. So Amani Hooker, safety and dime backer from Iowa, that was all about him. So tell me a little bit about your second safety. Is that Nazir Adderley?
Yes, sir. From Delaware. He's 6 foot and 206 pounds. Adderley is a Pennsylvania native, having grown up and gone to high school in Philadelphia. He is the cousin of Herb Adderley, the Hall of Fame defensive back, formerly of the Packers and Cowboys in the 1960s. Coming out of high school, Nasir was a jack of all trades, having over 1,000 receiving yards, 9 interceptions, and 7 touchdowns on kick returns. So Adderley could have been a receiver if he had gone to another school, but he chose Delaware, and they decided he was best fit as a safety or cornerback, both really. I believe it was because he was offered an immediate starting job, so that's why he picked Delaware. Well, that's exactly what happened. And as a true freshman, Adderley started all 11 games, leading the team with 8 pass breakups. He also had 51 tackles, 2 being for a loss. And then for the next season, he earned himself third-team all-conference honors for 49 tackles, 2 interceptions, 4 grace, and 4 pass breakups. But that was just the beginning. As a junior, he jumps from third-team to first-team all-colonial athletic honors for his 78 tackles, 4 for a loss, a team-leading 5 interceptions with 135 return yards, and 3 pass breakups. In 2018, Adderley was a second-team AP FCS All-American and first-team All-Conference player for having a team-leading 4 interceptions, 7 pass breakups, 87 tackles, 1.5 being for a loss, in 12 starts. He also returned 5 kickoffs for 149 yards, a 29.8 average, and getting a touchdown on one of the 5. I'm going to have to be honest with you. After actually watching that kick return, it is probably the best kick return I've ever seen on any level. Ever. I sat there, I was like, this isn't a touchdown. I'm watching the highlight, I was like, oh, it's just showing me another one. Oh, this is impressive. This man literally runs over a guy. The play literally stops. Everyone just sits there, and the man just finds a hole out of the to the end zone. I have no idea how he did it. So it seemed like time stopped for half a second, or maybe more. But regardless, big words for me. So go to his pauses. Basically the opposite of rap. Most of Adderley's picks were very athletic and impressive. I saw diving interceptions. I saw great returns. I saw going up and getting picked, and even some undercuts. To me, Adderley is a true ball hawk who can high point the ball with great ball tracking and amazing hops. Then something I liked about him is that he has starting experience at both cornerback and safety, and he can really do both, as some scouts are actually considering him to turn him back into a cornerback. Even though he's coming out as a safety, so he offers versatility. Then I really liked his movement. The dude just moves fast on tape. He's got a smooth back pedal to gain ground and get it deep into center field as a safety. He has fluid hips that make change of direction look beyond easy for him. He's got no pitch in his transitions either, no matter what direction he's going in. And he just overall looks fast on tape. His speed and agility help him in some other departments too. For one, he has shown the speed to range over the top as a single high safety and recover against deep throws. Then the closing burst he has helps him rush in and challenge the catch point. And finally, his lateral quickness and agility help him to tackle in space. Still, though, without a doubt, his best attribute is his ball skills. He shows cornerback instincts and ball skills when he's in the area of throw and can rake out a football at the catch point and after the catch to create fumbles for his team. Now, opposite of rap on the bad side, his play recognition is inconsistent at best, which makes him a victim of good play design and heady quarterbacks. To be fair to him, it's only really inconsistent when he plays as a deep safety, but still. Then trying to get to the football is a great for him when he has the ball, when the ball isn't thrown near him. I'm sorry. He doesn't take good pursuit angles, especially when the ball flows wide, and is also inconsistent even finding the football and reading running backs on downhill run fits. He also can be too focused on one target rather than balance the field with his eyes, and it has led him to recognize what's happening on the play late. There are 2 problems with Adderley as a tackler. For starters, he's a grab and drag tackler, which won't work as well at the NFL level. But also when he tackles, he absorbs more contact than he dishes out and runs for it, so that's not great either. Finally, I worry about Adderley's competition, as I've actually seen Adderley play against my college team, which is Stony Brook. He got an interception that game, but that drifts from the point. The CAA isn't a very tough division with teams like Stony Brook, Cornell, and Richmond among some of the competition, so I worry about how he would have stacked up in a tougher conference. But the bottom line is most of Adderley's biggest problems draw from his inconsistencies with recognition and response as his safety. So while he has the good size and length to be his safety, teams may try to use his speed and ball hawking skills to convert him back to a quarterback to make the most out of him, even though he mostly played safety at college. I still do think he could play safety, though, and NFL analysts have compared him to Jesse Bates, the safety John looked at in last year's draft that ended up as the Bengals starting safety. And I like this comparison. I feel like they did have a lot of same skill sets. Now for draft position, I think Adderley will go in the mid to late second round. He has a lot of talent to work with, and his speed and ball hogging skills have impressed evaluators enough to have him graded higher than some more high-profile safeties. So I think he has a chance to go early in the second round as well. But I don't think Adderley will go any later than the first-round picks in the third round. If Adderley goes past that, I would be shocked. So that was Nasir Adderley out of Delaware. Let's hear about Chauncey Gardner-Johnson from Florida.
Chauncey Gardner-Johnson out of Florida. You know, the junior, I watched his tape this past season, and I'll be honest, I only saw him playing slot cornerback, and I was very confused because I was like, he's a safety, right? Well, his NFL.com draft profile did confirm that the 5'11", 210-pound junior out of the University of Florida is a safety. And I was referred to his 2017 tape where he was a safety, so he is, in fact, a safety, not a cornerback, although he did play cornerback at times, so he is another versatile guy that I'm taking a look at. I watched his games against LSU and Michigan from this past season. The Michigan game was the Peach Bowl. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was an All-Florida selection in high school, made 3 starts in a true freshman season of 13 games, finishing with 32 tackles, a team-high 8 on special teams, and was the first freshman at Florida to be named MVP of a bowl game since Emmitt Smith, recording 3 interceptions in the Outback Bowl. His sophomore season, he started 11 games, had 58 more tackles, 6 tackles for a loss, 2 interceptions, and 7 pass breakups, and this past year, in his junior season, he started in 11 games, made 71 tackles, 9 for a loss with 3 sacks, 4 interceptions, and 2 pass breakups. So if Amani Hooker looks big but isn't fast, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is certainly looking big, and he plays fast too. He's long and has a well-built frame, he's athletic and agile, and he's quick enough to play both positions as he played in his freshman and sophomore years. And I already mentioned the versatility. He was primarily a slot corner his junior season. He's got good closing speed, and his 2017 film suggests that he can play a high safety, free safety type of position consistently. Gardner-Johnson is strong enough and fights with receivers in the air who are trying to make combative catches. He's strong enough to rake the ball away from them, and he's a very good matchup against tight ends. Actually, Lance Zierlein suggested that unless if you've got really good tight ends, Gardner-Johnson is a mismatch for tight ends. You usually don't see mismatches from the defensive point of view against tight ends. Gardner-Johnson's a very physical run defender and hits receivers hard too. He's a better blitzer than Amani Hooker, and he's a good communicator out there. He has the speed to carry receivers up the seam and deep down the field, and he plays tight man coverage in the slot and has solid zone drops. The speed to carry receivers up the field was evident in an interception he had against the Michigan Wolverines in the Peach Bowl last year. He was running up the middle of the field with the receiver and noticed that there was a teammate on the outside, a cornerback guarding a receiver one-on-one. Shea Patterson, the Michigan quarterback, threw it for the end zone as he was cutting back across the middle of the field. And Gardner-Johnson turned his head, started running from right to left and changed direction and picked the ball off. It was really just a great read, and he baited Shea Patterson perfectly, and it was really a tide-turning interception because he picked it off right around the goal line and returned it deep into Michigan territory, and that was a huge part of Florida's win over Michigan in the Peach Bowl. Unfortunately for Gardner-Johnson, there are still weaknesses in his game. For one thing that I definitely notice is he has a really tough time fighting off blocks, specifically when he's facing quick screens in the slot. Amani Hooker was much better at fighting through these blocks to get to the tackle or to get to the tackle. Gardner-Johnson really just struggled with it. And like I said, he was listed as a safety, but was almost exclusively a slot corner and sometimes an outside corner this season. So if a team wants him to be a single high safety, they might be taking a risk since he hasn't played there in over a year. And he missed a lot of tackles over his last 2 seasons. His footwork is not good in space, so he'll struggle to bring down carriers or ball carriers in the open field. And he didn't deal well with stacked receivers. He hasn't found the best way to defend pick plays yet. Smaller and quicker slot receivers are going to give him fits right now too, just because of the fact that they're so shifty. He's not good with shiftiness. And despite the good ball traits, he didn't have a ton of interceptions and pass breakups that you might think Gardner-Johnson would have with that speed, athleticism, and natural catching ability. The zone drops are hit and miss with him. He'll overcommit to an area at times and will leave his zone when, you really shouldn't be doing that. And his anticipation, as I mentioned, just isn't as good as Amani Hooker's. Especially I'll go back to those quick screens. Hooker will recognize it immediately and will diagnose the play and will fight off the block. Gardner-Johnson doesn't recognize things as quickly. He relies on his athleticism, which isn't necessarily bad, but you're going to need more than that at the NFL level to be a top-level safety or cornerback. He's got to get better in this aspect. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's another hybrid type of safety, and although different from Amani Hooks, Gardner-Johnson, I think, is a good player to have on any team. He's got good size and he's athletic. That's usually a good place to start. Teams are going to have to figure out where they want him to play. He looks like a corner, but he might fit better as a safety. He can blitz, he can play the run, and he can cover well. His reads and recognition, it's not good right now. It needs to improve. So where is he going to be better suited? It's really, time will tell. But there's good potential here. Draft analysts have him going in the late first round to early second round. I think he's going to be right around pick 32, give or take. I think he's just too good to pass up, and I'd love to have him in Pittsburgh personally. I don't know if I'd want him to be the first round pick, but I'd be ecstatic to have him as the second round selection, if you will. So that was Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, the junior out of the University of Florida. Tell me about Juan Thornhill.
Well, he's from Virginia. He's 6 foot and 205 pounds. He came out of high school highly recruited as a multi-sport athlete. He was actually featured on SportsCenter for how well he dunked, but obviously Thornhill chose football. He came out of Alta Vista High School in Virginia as an all-state defender and quarterback with 2 state championships under his belt. Thornhill decided to stay in Virginia and go to Virginia College, where he would play his entire college career. As a true freshman, he played 9 games in reserve, getting 2 tackles. In his sophomore season, he became a starter, getting a team-leading 3 interceptions to go along with 45 tackles, 3 for a loss, and 7 pass breakups. And he got 11 starts in 12 games. In 2017, he earned a little bit of recognition, getting third-team All-ACC honors for starting 12 games and getting 63 tackles, 4.5 for a loss, 4 interceptions, and 12 pass breakups. He saved his best for last, spell, making a jump from third-team All-Conference to first-team All-Conference in the season by leading Virginia with a whopping 98 tackles, also leading them with 6 interceptions, which was tied for third in the FBS, getting 4.5 tackles for a loss and making 7 pass breakups. So Thornhill is another guy that offers versatility as either a cornerback or safety, as he used to be a cornerback. You can see that ball hawking mentality has carried over to him being a safety too. I mean, obviously, 1 year I just said he had 12 pass breakups. Like he could get to the ball. It helps with his size and wingspan to go up and get balls too. But thinking about going up, Juan Thornhill actually had the best vertical of the entire combine, beating out wide receivers and quarterbacks alike with a 44-inch vertical. I was curious at that point. I decided to look back and go and see how that stacked up with other years. But so not only did he have the best vertical this year, that's tied for the 4th best vertical at the combine since 2006. So that man can get up at where he needs to. And that's on all positions. I'm not just talking about safeties here. I'm talking about every single position. He's got the 4th best. I think still the 1st best is Chris Conley, if I remember correctly, but he wasn't far off. But it's something that just stands out about Thornhill. But another thing that I like about Thornhill is his recognition. He has a good understanding of route combinations that have allowed him to get a head start, and he is also effective with his back to the ball because he's effective because I think he has a good understanding of what's happening behind him. He just knows what's happening. He feels confident in his abilities even when his back is turned to him. Then I like his speed of pursuit. He can get to the deep part of the field and coverage with no problem, and also is really good at closing distance with a good pursuit pace. He also has a quick trigger to get to challenge dig routes, so his speed helps him there as well. Now, if I didn't make it well known before when talking about this vertical, Thornhill is athletic. He can handle open field tackling with ease. He can crowd receiver space and alert them to the catch base. And he can even line up over the slot and match up against tight end. The final thing I will say is I absolutely love his work ethic. Thornhill isn't a guy who takes a play off. He is playing every down like the quarterback is going to throw at his man. He just plays with ferocity, and I like that. So, on the other side of things, some concerns scouts have had is that his frame is a little narrow for working inside the box. And he doesn't look to be carrying the same weight that he had in spring. So he may need to put on a little bit more weight once in the NFL, but he kind of had the same weight as the other safety prospects. I looked at, but that's something scouts were saying. He has struggled when he plays inside of the box at the college level. He could definitely use some improvement shedding and attacking blocks in the line. Then there have been times where he had busts in coverage because he had to learn new responsibilities, so he might be considered a slow learner. He also hasn't fully adjusted to run pursuit angles as a safety just yet. He got a lot of playing time at corner. He's probably going to need a little bit more time to adjust, but working with both NFL coaches and other NFL safeties should help him if he stays at the position. Now, my biggest concern with Thornhill is he needs to learn to balance his playmaking instincts. At the NFL level, he's likely going to have trouble against eight routes and play action as he tries to jump around and get a pick and then ends up getting burned. He can be slow to open up at sprint when transitioning on deep throws as well, so that's going to leave him getting burnt at times as well. So the bottom line on Thornhill is that, first let me start with what an NFC scout said. An NFC regional scout had this to say about Thornhill. We look for safeties who could take it away, and that's what he does. It wouldn't surprise me if a team drafted him moving back to corner since he's long with ball skills. So some teams may be considering him as a cornerback, but I think Thornhill is best fit as a safety. He's been compared to Redskin safety Clinton Dix, and I agree to a point. But I actually think Thornhill is a better ball hawk coming out of college, as Clinton Dix played on Alabama's great defense while Thornhill played at Virginia. Not alone, of course, but he didn't have the supporting cast that Clinton Dix did. So, anyway, that may lead you to think that Thornhill would be a first-round pick since Clinton Dix was a first-round pick. And I just said that Thornhill was a better ball hawk, but the problem is Thornhill has a lot of projected problems holding back. Like, analysts think that he's going to struggle early on as he learns. So he's projected as a second-round pick in my mind. And so that was Juan Thornhill out of Virginia. And now I just love this name, Marvell Tell out of USC. Let's hear about him. I love that. Marvell Tell.
Marvell Tell. He's an interesting prospect out of USC, a senior. Kind of the star when it comes to the combine as far as safeties go, at least for my players. He tested first or second in everything that he participated in. He didn't participate in the 40-yard dash or the bench press. He was second in his vertical leap at 42 inches, second in his broad jump at 136 inches, first in the three-cone drill at 6.63 seconds, and second in the 20-yard shuttle at 4.01 seconds. So to give you an idea, I watched his games against Texas and Cal from the 2018 season for USC. Both were losses. In high school, his senior season, Tell was named an all-area pick for the LA Daily News and translated that into 2 games as a freshman, starting 2 games as a freshman at strong safety, finishing with 36 tackles and 4 pass breakups. He played in 10 games and actually broke his collarbone his freshman year, forcing him to miss 4 games. He started 13 as a sophomore, finishing with 43 tackles, 2 for a loss, 1 interception, and 2 pass breakups. Was named first team All Pac-12 as a junior, starting 14 games at free safety, finishing with 85 tackles, 2.5 for a loss, 3 interceptions, 2 pass breakups, and 1 of those interceptions being a pick 6. He was finally an All Pac-12 honorable mention this past season, finishing with 57 tackles, 1 interception, and 5 pass breakups in 10 starts. So as far as his strengths go, he is by far the tallest safety I've looked at, standing at a tall 6'2" and 198 pounds. He's also clearly the best when it comes to his combine results, and he was very fast. He's quick, and he moves fluidly. He spent a lot of time at the single high safety position and is clearly a free safety. He also played some snaps against Texas and Cal, both of the games I looked at. He played in the box as a slot corner, and he did this more against Cal. He's quick and decisive and can recognize patterns and route breaks. He'll break on the ball pretty quickly. He has quick feet and loose hips, allowing him to have a fast transition, which is explained on his quick 20-yard shuttle time. He's good. He's a good blitzer. He blitzed off the edge a couple times against, I believe it was Cal, and actually hit the quarterback a couple of times. And he could be a player with good ball production at the pro level based on what I saw. On the other side, though, Tell missed a tackle due to laziness against Cal. That's really all you can chop it up to. He just stopped trying to tackle the guy when he thought he was going to go down. He struggles to fight through blocks And tackling is really a huge issue for Marvell Tell at this point. The issue is really compounded because he's slim, and despite being 6'2", he doesn't pack a lot of power, and he takes way more of the physical brunt of a hit more than he dishes out. And that's not something you want out of your safeties. And despite playing a lot of single high safety concepts, Tell struggled with letting players get behind him, and that's that's the first rule being the deep safety. Don't let anyone get behind you. His discipline in this regard leaves a lot to be desired. He needs to read the quarterback better, and specifically got juked on a blitz by a quarterback who was stationary. That can't happen. You've got to be able to wrap the quarterback up there. And this is really where the problems start to mount for Tell. He just doesn't hustle to the football when he's not involved in the play, and he just looks disinterested out there sometimes. And then finally on a play against Cal, it was a decisive third down. I think it was a 3rd and 1, something like that. And USC needed to get a stop to get the ball back to try and tie or win the game late. And it was dependent on this play. It was a quarterback bootleg where it was just the quarterback and Tell out there all alone. And Tell was too slow to react and could not stop the Cal quarterback short of the marker, took a bad angle, and that effectively lost them the game. So that's a huge negative in my mind. That was a very poor play when his team needed him to make one. So at the end of the day, Marvell Tell is definitely, I would say, the most athletic safety I've looked at, and his natural speed and fluidity is really nice to see. That's something the NFL teams are really going to be interested in. But effort, the fact that could be a problem with him and that scouts have questioned his love for the game, that really concerns me. Not to mention the fact that both of the games I watched of him, he didn't pop out at me at all. I found myself looking at what was happening in the play more so than what he was doing. And granted, part of that is because he is more of a single high safety, but at the same time, man, I felt like similar to kind of what you said with Terrell Edmunds, Austin. He's not sticking his nose in there. He's not really making his presence felt. But even more so with Tell. And again, he's athletic and he moves well and he has the size to be a player in this league. But the effort concerns and his struggles and lack of physicality should give teams pause. I think he could be a decent deep safety. NFL, I believe he's an analyst, Gil Brandt, has him listed as a top 50 NFL draft pick. And quite frankly, I saw nothing on tape that justifies a pick that high whatsoever. But then again, I only saw 2 games. It could have been bad games. So based on what I'm seeing, it looks like he could be a day 2 selection. I don't personally see it. But again, I only saw a very limited sample size of Marvell Tell. Talk to me a little bit about your final prospect, Will Harris.
Will Harris is from Boston College. He's 6'1" and 207 pounds. He is the son of Will Harris Sr., and Sr. was drafted in the 7th round of the 1993 draft by the Buffalo Bills. He grew up in Georgia and decided to go to Boston College after high school. So as a true freshman, Harris got to start the final 3 games while playing in all 12 games that year, making 20 tackles and having 1 interception. He went on to start for Boston the next 26 games. In 2016, he made 47 tackles, had 2 interceptions, and broke up 6 passes. The next year, he made a huge jump reduction, going from 47 tackles to 83 with 5.5 for a loss, a sack, 1 interception, a fumble recovery touchdown, and 3 pass breakups, including a strong performance in the Pinstripe Bowl against Iowa, where he had 9 tackles. In 2018, Harris started all 12 games, making 75 tackles and having 1 interception, to earn himself 3rd-team All-ACC honors. Following his only conference-recognized season, he declared for the draft. So, Harris comes from an athletic bloodline, and you can tell by his size and length. It allows him to be able to line up against tight ends and cover them well. It's really his best attribute. His coverage skills are great, both on defense and on special teams. He rarely lost in coverage in his college career. It's just how it is. Then he is super tough and willing to throw his body at opponents to try and disrupt the ball, disrupt the catch point is what I'm trying to say. And he is flown in to make those hits from the tape. Also from the tape I saw, he has a quick trigger to pass rush too. He really flies in quickly. He has forced the quarterback to throw because of this quick pressure. Then while Harrison's also the same versatility as other prospects, he can play either safety spot. So he does offer a little bit of versatility. Then while Harris doesn't offer I'm sorry. Finally, I will say he's pretty good at getting around plays as he hustles around, and it shows. As he had 6 fumble recoveries in the last 2 seasons at Boston. He looks to get involved, is what I'm trying to say there. So on the flip side of things, my biggest issue with Harrison is his play speed. Oh, my God. I really thought after watching his tape that he wasn't that fast of a guy. And when I saw his 40 time, which was 4.41, or 4th best among safeties this year, I was literally shocked. The dude plays very slow. If he's not pass rushing it. It takes him a pretty long time to change direction, but he lacks the instinct to try and get a head start on the play as well. Now you add that his closure skills aren't there, and he has an inconsistent feel for pursuit angles. You can just see why he looks so slow. I really thought he was going to clock in as like one of the slowest safeties in this year's draft. Excuse me. He also waits to see what is happening rather than just feel it out in zone coverage, so it takes him longer than most there as well. Then I really felt like Harris needs to get his strength up pretty bad. I saw him get run over by running backs at the college level, partially because he tries to catch them and take them down, but he really would not survive as a tackler at the NFL level. And he really isn't that good in general against run support. He doesn't have the power to lay the big hits on bigger running backs. So again, he needs to get his strength up. Now, something I saw from the tape as well is he was used a lot for safety blitzes. He played towards the box a lot, and he would come flying in, but they weren't very effective. He is slow to punch and play off blocks, and really only got good pass rushes in when he came in unblocked. I didn't see anywhere he pushed the defender back, but because circling back, he just isn't that strong. He will definitely not be able to beat NFL linemen or even tight ends for that matter once he gets to the NFL. The last thing I will say is he has pretty modest ball production through his career, not really getting many interceptions or forcing any fumbles. So the former NFC scout said he's going to be drafted as a backup, and he'll be solid for a couple of years, and then you're going to look up and he's going to be starting for you. He's a solid football player. And I think I see why he was a former NFC scout. I don't see Harris ever becoming a starter. I think he's going to be a decent backup and a great special teams player that makes him stick around, if he does stick around. After watching Harris's tape, I loved his coverage skills, but he was just so slow to watch. He needs to get his play speed up, rely less on what he sees and more on what he knows for him to be successful at the NFL level. Or he could combine these two things, of course, or he really needs to get up his strength because he's going to be run over. Still, though, his size, length, and ability to play either safety spot is going to be desired to try and mold Harris into a great safety. I think he goes in the 4th round, but I'd love to see us take him in the 5th. I personally thought that a 4th-round pick would be too high, but some analysts had him going as early as like the late 3rd round. I was definitely not that bad. I think he's totally a 4th-round pick. But if the Steelers are going to take him, I hope they take him in the 5th. So let's hear about your final prospect, Donovan Wilson out of Texas A&M.
Donovan Wilson, a 6', 199-pound redshirt senior from Texas A&M. I watched games against Ole Miss and Auburn for him in 2018. So Donovan Wilson, from the same hometown as Terry Bradshaw. Fun fact, Shreveport, Louisiana, was named the Shreveport Defensive Player of the Year in 2013. Played in 10 games as a freshman with 19 tackles, 2 for a loss, and had his first career start against West Virginia in the Liberty Bowl. He finished with a team-high 9 tackles in that game. He moved to the nickel position as a sophomore, making 7 starts out of 13 games, finishing with 63 tackles, 8.5 for a loss, 2 sacks, a team-high 5 interceptions with 3 pass breakups, and 3 forced fumbles. He started in 7 of 12 games at nickel in 2016 and had 59 tackles, 5.5 for a loss, 1 interception, and 2 pass breakups as a junior. And at the start of his senior season in 2017 in the opener, he had a season-ending ankle injury, unfortunately, and he had to redshirt. But he bounced back in a big way, finishing with 11 starts in 12 games at safety. He had 66 tackles, 4.5 for a loss, 2 sacks, 2 interceptions, and 5 pass breakups to send him off on his merry way. Donovan Wilson is a physical and punishing hitter. He's considered a tough guy on the team. Again, he's got good size and a good frame for an NFL safety with long arms to boot. Coaches noted that he picked up a complicated SEC defense quickly, and a player who loves the physical aspect of the game. Wilson never passes up a chance to hit somebody, and that was evident more so than any other player I looked at, that he loved the physicality and tackling aspect of the game. Although typically playing at strong safety, Wilson also played in the slot at times. Again, all of the players I looked at did. He challenged offensive linemen even on blocks against the run. He'd come up and hit them as well. And again, another player strong enough to rake the ball away from the ball carrier. A smart and talented blitzer. Donovan Wilson has fantastic timing. This was evidenced on a play where he came off the right edge to pick up a sack against Ole Miss. Fantastic blitzer, and he has good quickness to close on the ball and receivers very quickly. However, as you might expect with a young and physical safety, someone that loves to hit as much as he does, Wilson needs to be more disciplined. He had multiple targeting penalties called against him throughout his collegiate career, and poor angles of pursuit led to huge gains in multiple instances. The first one I'm thinking about is against A.J. Brown and Ole Miss. And change of direction is really a struggle for him. Unlike Marvell Tell, his agility just really isn't that good. Wilson bit on a halfback pass that I saw against Ole Miss, and his missed assignment resulted in a touchdown. And Wilson's biggest problem is his long speed. He's not a free safety in the NFL. Similar to Amani Hooker, he might have quickness, decent burst, but he's not going to be able to run with the speedy guys. And he has ideal ball skills, but the speed and athleticism, agility issues, that's not going to translate to him being a guy that ends up with 8 interceptions every year. It's not going to happen. So at the end of the day, Donovan Wilson is a physical safety through in and throughout, by far the most physical I looked at, and he just looks like a Steelers safety to me. He's big, physical, loves the game, loves his team. The problem with him right now is his discipline, and ones that probably can't change. His other problems are agility and speed. That's going to push him down the draft board, but even if he is available in the middle to later portions of the draft, I should say, right around day 3, I think he'll be available. I just don't think the Steelers need to add another player like him. They have too many guys like him that can defend the run well. They're physical and just can't cover very well. So, again, I like him, but a mid to late day 3 guy, I don't know how well he's going to fit in with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So now that we've looked at everybody, let's talk about kind of who makes the most sense ending up in Pittsburgh. As far as the 4 prospects you looked at, rank them as we normally do, how you think they would best fit with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, for me, this one was pretty hard. I knew my top 2, and I knew my bottom 2, but I didn't know how to rank them. So it actually took me a little while, but I ended up with my number 1. Actually, I always start from the top. Let me start from the bottom. My 4th, I left Tyler Rapp. And I like him, but it would take a first-round pick to get him likely, and I'm not about it for a safety. That isn't what the Steelers need. The Steelers need a ball hawk, and Rapp really isn't that. It was like the one thing that he's not good at. I think he's going to be a good safety in the league, though. He has been coined the safe player in this year's draft. I don't think I would be happy the Steelers drafted him unless they traded down and somehow got another second-round pick out of it, because Rapp just isn't a ball hawk. But he can play special teams really well. So he could at least contribute year 1 if he was drafted in the first round. But he's still number 4 for me. So at number 3, it was Will Harris. Now, it was tough because I liked Rapp, but he just isn't what the Steelers need. I don't like Harris all too much either, because Harris really looks like a ball hawk either. But if he falls to the 5th round, I wouldn't be mad, and it wouldn't be the Steelers using their first-round pick on something they don't necessarily need. So I'd be more okay with Will Harris being drafted. Now, number 2, Juan Thornhill. I really liked him because, like Adderley, he's a ball hawk. The Steelers desperately needed that in their secondary, and I wouldn't mind Thornhill for a second-round pick either. He just needs to work on his ball hawking a little bit. His ball hawking is almost a little too much because scouts think he's going to be burned to the next level, but I think that after working with some NFL coaches and stuff, that he can develop into a really good player. And that leaves my number 1, which was Nasir Adderley. I love his tape. I think he can't just be thrust into a starting role, but to develop a year behind Sean Davis would be great. Worst comes to worst, he could be a corner as well, which the Steelers could also use. And I would love if he was the Steelers' second-round pick. I think that's a perfect round to go grab him. I mean, I think if he's there for that pick, I think that's a great pick, and I would love that. So Nasir Adderley's my number one. So how do you rank your prospects?
All right, I'll do what you did. I'll go from the bottom up. I'll start with last. I have Marvell Tell. Look, I like the potential to be a ball production-based single high safety, but knowing the Steelers, the lack of physicality in Tell's game, and the fact that people are questioning his desire to play football really just makes me think he wouldn't be a good fit in Pittsburgh. And second of all, based on how high he's going, there are other guys I'd rather have at safety besides him if they're available. And if they aren't available, I'd rather just see the Steelers go in a different direction. No personal offense to Tell, of course, but I just don't think he'd be a good fit. Next, I have Donovan Wilson, and I already kind of alluded to it, but he reminds me a lot of Marcus Allen from last year. Good run defender, physical, tough, team leader. Not a great cover guy, though. Certainly not down the field, and I like this kind of player. He looks like a Steelers safety. He's big and physical, but the fact remains the Steelers don't really need another player like him. Drafting him would be redundant. It would be like they wasted a pick on Marcus Allen last year. So I just think he doesn't make sense, even if he is a late day 3 pick. If anything, I'd be okay with him being an undrafted free agent. But again, I'm not seeing much of the benefit of bringing him in. Second, I have Amani Hooker, and I really, really like him. Look, if you want a dime backer, this is your guy. He's not super fast or athletic. He's going to be a little limited, so he can't be more than a strong safety if he's not the box guy, but there's a lot of things that he does well, and if he forms up his game, I think he's going to be a solid player for a lot of years. And then at the top, I have Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. He has huge upside. I love his versatility, but the really appealing thing to me, for the Steelers' point of view, is the potential to be that single high safety that we've been looking for. Other than a year or two of Mike Mitchell, the Steelers haven't had a good single high free safety to play off the strong safety since 2012 when Ryan Clark was exiting his prime. He's big and physical too. I think Gardner-Johnson would be a perfect addition to the Steelers secondary, and I'd really like to see him in the black and gold. But again, like Hooker, I think both of them are late first-round picks or early second-round picks. They're kind of in that gray area between the Steelers picks where it would be kind of a reach to take them in round 1 and unlikely to make it to round 2. If one of them somehow made it to the Steelers' second-round pick, I'd be all for taking one of them. But, it is what it is. We will see. So now that we've looked at all that, let's talk a little bit about just how you see the depth chart playing out. Do you see only 4 safeties on the team next year? How do you see the starters panning out? Who do you think is going to be the dime backer and then the backups?
Well, I think the starter is going to be Sean Davis and Terrell Edmunds, at least to start the year. That's what I see. Now, I think that the backups are going to be Jordan Dangerfield and a rookie. I think that there's going to be a rookie brought in, and possibly the rookie could play dime linebacker, but that would be ideal, I think. But I don't know. With Mark Barron coming in, I feel like they don't necessarily need it, but I feel like it would be nice to have another guy that could do it in case, like, maybe Mark Barron, they decide Mark Barron can't, or they don't like him there. And then I'm going to say Marcus Allen does make the roster, but he's just a game day and active kind of guy, and the Steelers roll with 5 safeties this year instead of 6. That's how they ended up when Matt Burr got hurt anyway, so I feel like that makes sense. How about you?
I agree with you. I'm going to have Davis and Edmunds as the starters. My backups are Jordan Dangerfield and Marcus Allen. And at dime backer, I do have Mark Barron for now, but again, I'm starting to think more and more that he's going to be a linebacker only and not a dime linebacker. I'm thinking a draft pick will be used at some point and he'll be the guy. And if it's not him, I'm just going to take a wild guess and say it's either Marcus Allen or Cam Sutton. And we'll see. But regardless, I think the draft pick, I'm hoping that the draft pick will be the starting dime linebacker. So that'll wrap things up. Just a quick, one quick thing, Austin. Did you see the Jets' leaked uniforms?
I did see the leaked uniforms.
What do you think?
I didn't like them. I talked to a few Jets fans and like one Bill fan, and the general consensus from my friend group was they didn't like them, but it seemed like a lot of the internet liked them. I wasn't about them. They looked like the Eagles, the old school Eagles uniforms, and I wasn't about it. What did you think?
I actually do like them. They look mostly to me kind of like what Eastern Michigan wears to college. And, I get why some people might not like them, But at the end of the day, I'm so beyond sick of what they've been wearing for the past 20 plus years. I'm ready for a change, and I guess this is enough for me.
That's fair.
All right. Well, obviously, there's also big news about the AAF and the fact that they ceased operations. We're not going to get into that today, but for those who don't know, the Alliance of American Football ceased operations after Chairman Tom Dundon pulled the plug on it, essentially. And again, we'll have more commentary on that later. But we're going to wrap things up for now, unless there's anything else you wanted to say, Austin.
No, I'm good.
All righty. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on the Stronger Than Steel podcast. As always, if you have any questions, email us at strongerthansteelpodcast@gmail.com. And check out our website to find more information out about the podcast at strongerthansteelnfl.blogspot.com. Austin, thank you as always for joining me tonight. And Steelers Nation, you have a terrific night.
Have a good night.
You have been listening to Stronger Than Steel podcast. Thank you for joining us today, and don't forget to check out our website listed in the description below.